Hi there, I'm continuing my analysis of my most recent video, Blue Star Solstice 2016, Memory Complex Codes, Royal Houses of Sirius, Pleiades and Lyra. So at the last point in the last video, I was talking to you about the, I mentioned the piece of channeling, the transmission that is the story, the web that the dreamweaver weaves. And this is an activation, so it's not necessarily something that would be positive to analyze, and if it is analyzed, it should be analyzed by you, because each structure within this particular channeled aspect of speech, these words, the language of light, is unique to you. So for me to analyze this, that would be an analysis for me and may not necessarily be an analysis for you. But I will respond to one part of that, which is a question somebody sent in, and they were talking about the twin separation, where one part of the twin remains within the twin of light, the levels of light, and the other twin comes into blood and bone, into matter. The question was, is this related to the twin flame? So yes, it is related to the twin flame. The twin flame energy, a relationship with someone, be it someone of the same sex or the opposite sex, it doesn't matter. A twin flame can be within a heterosexual or a homosexual relationship. It is energy, male, female, connected energy, not the actual genetic gender of the person. The twin flame relationship is only one aspect of the twin flame energy. The twinning, if you like, is a metaphoric presentation. When we're looking at it as a twin flame, as in a soul is incarnated, and this is how the question was meant. Does the twin, does the when you move into a twin flame, the person was seeing this very much as a soul is incarnated into an inception point and splits into two halves. One is a male and one is a female, and then off they go into matter, and then they find each other again. That is a very romantic, metaphoric presentation of truth. It is true, absolutely, but it doesn't necessarily happen exactly like that to the soul. A soul doesn't necessarily split, and half's a male, half's a female, and off they go and find each other. It's not like that. What the split is, the twin split, and that's what this channeling is referring to, is when there's an inception point occurring. When I look at an individual's inception point, I'm looking at a linear line as of where they are now in their awareness. Where would that take me if I backtracked their timelines to their inception point? But I'm looking at a linear line, so I'm looking back and I'm only seeing one inception point. But the truth is that many inception points are created at the same time. The soul is scattered, split into several places. So we would have an inception point all simultaneously: Pleiades, Lyra, Sirius, Arcturus, Andromeda, and everywhere else. But that's a multi-dimensional view. So you would only trace your inception point on a linear line from where you are now in your expansion as an individual on Earth. If you become multi-dimensional in your thinking, you're going to have more than one inception point. And then if you start to embrace higher dimensional streams, you will be looking at Andromedan or Arcturian inception points. And if you embrace even more multi-dimensional streams, you'll be looking at source as an inception point, and so on. So the truth of the split, the twin, if you like, is more like a soul incarnates into these scattered inception points. So let's just say we've got one inception point. So say the soul is moving into a new memory complex, retaining new memory on a path to individualization, and that soul births itself into, say, the Pleiades. the twinning would be that the soul is whole, a holographic replica of source itself, a complete cell, a complete energetic matrix that's the exact blueprint of source. And it's that splits, if you like, and one part stays within the levels of light and the other part goes into matter. That is still a metaphor, but it is a much closer metaphor to truth than saying the soul splits into a male and a female. What it is one stays in the light levels and one moves into matter. It's still a linear presentation, because truthfully, our soul is in the light levels and all planetary systems and all dimensions simultaneously, as our soul is fragmented into all things and all aspects and is a oneness of all those aspects and is no aspects for it is oneness. So I've discussed all this before, but on a linear level, but getting closer to the truth, we're splitting. One goes into the light levels, the other goes into matter. Now, how that really would work is when you're in matter and you are in amnesia and you've forgotten who you are and you don't have activated DNA and you haven't activated your memory, you're a third dimensional soul. So the light levels hold and retain a higher a percentage of your overall soul matrix, overall consciousness, if you like. But as you start to awaken and become more aware, that higher soul would drip down into the physical soul and matter. So the more you awaken, the more of the soul within the light levels feeds into you. And the way you can see that is looking at water. If there was a body of water, like a bowl of water, and there's some more water dripping down from rain, if you like, the more rain that comes into that bowl of water, it's still the same thing because it's water and it all merges together. So it's the same sort of thing with the light, the consciousness, the light of consciousness, the love of consciousness dripping down into the physical self. So that's a high level metaphor on how one would see it. The more you awaken, the more of the light levels come down into the physical self. When it comes to the twin flame, the highest metaphoric way of looking at this is to see the twin flame as a vertical presentation rather than a horizontal one. A horizontal one would be, I'm on this planet and so is somebody else. And say my name is Mary and I meet somebody called Peter. Peter's my twin flame, I'm Mary. That's a horizontal presentation, or a form of a horizontal presentation, because it's the same. It's a sibling presentation rather than a parent-child presentation. The vertical presentation would be us here in the third dimension, and the higher aspect, that twin, that split, that is the twin flame. So the aspect that stays within the light levels, that drips down into, feeds into us when we expand, that is the twin flame. And there is no greater twin flame than the higher aspect of you. So to see an individual on the third dimensional level as a reflection of that higher aspect is a far closer metaphor to the truth. So when Mary meets Peter, Peter is not the other male half of her soul, although you could say that if you wanted to use a metaphor, it would still be a metaphor that fits truth, but it's not as accurate a metaphor as saying Peter is a soul that mirrors the higher self of Mary, that higher twin of Mary. If you want to go even further into the twin flame energy, an even more truthful metaphor would be to say that Peter fits Peter and Mary together as a couple create the twin flame energy that mirrors the split of the higher dimensional light level being and the one in physical matter. The opposing split is an energetic field, and Mary and Peter mirror that. That's a far closer metaphor, because what that means is that if Mary and Peter don't work out and Peter goes off and then Mary meets Sean could also fit that same pattern. So the whole twin flame thing is another issue. And yes, on one level, there is only one twin flame for you, but that's when you view that level as destiny. And destiny is looking at the most probable timeline and looking at events that occur in multiple timelines simultaneously, creating a node point. This brings you to a destiny. But when you actually look at the journey of the soul from source to incarnation, then the twin flame energy is the light aspect of your matrix, your soul, remaining in the levels, the non-physical levels, the light levels, and that you being in matter, as in blood and bone. And that is your twin flame. And relationships mirror that pattern. And that is a far closer metaphor. So from that perspective, anyone could be your twin flame. Another perspective, which is the perspective of destiny, is there's only one twin flame. So it really depends on which perspective you're viewing that from. So that answers the question that was written in, but that is very much within that channeling, because within the channeling, it was saying about there was a split, creating a dualistic twin. The twin of light remained in the fields of light, and the other twin did form as blood and bone and nerves, created as a mirror image of the twin of light. So that's the splitting. And that is an accurate presentation of what happens to the energy of pure consciousness when it moves into a new memory complex. The inception point would be the blood and bone, and the light levels would be the all-encompassing energy of source. But as a memory complex is formed, we're looking at an individualized soul, which is a matrix that is a perfect holographic replica of source. And that matrix becomes an individualized entity, an individualized consciousness structure in itself, and that then splits, just like the cells of our body do. So moving on with the channeling. So shall we now present through the diamond light matrix your awareness of your Andromedan and your Arcturian incarnations? So this channeling is saying that it is it's the platinum ray, your awareness of your direct source incarnations, that is first presented, and then an activation is given, which I gave in the last analysis. So if you want to listen to that activation, go back and listen to my previous video that I've just done, the previous analysis. That is an activation if you wish to expand into the platinum ray and holding awareness of your direct source incarnations. The direct source incarnation is this bursting forward into the light levels, holding a memory complex. The minute there's a projecting forth from source, a consciousness projecting forth in a holographic replica, that becomes a memory complex. And that starts to retain memory as an individualized but absolute replica, an absolute double of source. It isn't that it's moved away from source. It is source. It's a copy. It's a twin. So there's a twin created from source. Source is one and source becomes two, but they're identical. And then that one that's become two, then that splits, and we've got one in the light levels and one in blood and bone. But they're identical, but they have individualized free will and individualized memory. So that's the memory complex. So the next part of the channeling is the diamond light matrix and your awareness of your Andromedan and your Arcturian incarnations. This is coming down the levels somewhat. We're moving away from that direct source presentation. When we come into a memory complex field directly from source, we're now coming down into the diamond light matrix, which is another perspective. And it is not as an expansive perspective as the platinum ray, but still a most important perspective when you are compartmentalizing all the perspectives in order to integrate within your physical incarnation, and that is the ascension process. That's what you're doing. From the galaxies and dimensions of the human light being merges, and the priests and sages of white magic did they lay you down to sleep. In your sleeping chambers, in moving cities, Merkaba ships larger than worlds, did you enter the stasis of preservation, and enter thus a new body, one that shall move into a new galaxy, a new planet, and swim within the seas of time. As mermaids in Lemuria did you swim, until you knew to find true love, you would have to journey onto the land in human form. The crystal city of Atlantis did then rise, and you, the Atlantean priests, did create the technologies remembered from the time before the Great Sleep. You moved through the stages of apprentice to adept, and through the power of the crystal technology, you began to create worlds. Thus did your memories begin to stay through life after life after life within the Atlantean phase. You did project forward in time many, many years with the retained memory of the Great Sleep and the Atlantean phase, and thus you merged the Arcturian with the Arthurian, and you became the stuff that legends are made of. So as I've said, this is an activation to be given to you in its pure state without a full deconstructing and analysing from me. It is more positive to give you the pure activation because it is opening up memory. However, I have had 2 questions come in about this particular channeling, so I'm going to answer those questions. The first one is about the stasis. Entering a stasis of preservation and entering thus a new body. So somebody remembered that they had memories of moving into an incarnation, being put in stasis, sent to sleep, and then incarnating on Earth. So I've spoken to the 9 about this, and this is what they were referring to in this particular channeling. So there is yet another perspective. There are so many perspectives when it comes to incarnation and experiencing a life of matter. Now, one of the perspectives, which is an Andromedan perspective, I'm told, is one incarnates within the inception point. And the inception point is Andromeda for this particular perspective. Now, Andromeda is this huge field. It's this entire galaxy with just loads and loads and loads of worlds and different types of beings, and it's massive. You couldn't just sum up Andromeda in one sentence. It's an entire galaxy with universes and worlds and planets, and so there's so much. But within that system of Andromeda, there is a perspective, and one could view this as being a planet, if you like, whereby these particular beings are advanced in their technology. What these particular beings have done, have created these sleeping chambers. What actually happens is when you get to adulthood within your Andromeda incarnation, you can choose to go into a sleeping chamber, so go into a form of stasis where your form is preserved, and then the consciousness that you are will leave the sleeping form and enter into another incarnation within a lower dimension from that one. And one of those planets chosen is Earth. So there are some individuals here who hold the memory stream of being an Andromedan being, going to sleep in some kind of chamber, and then incarnating as human. So they've got like a double incarnation going on. It's a perspective, and it's a truthful one. In that perspective, one is living a life, so say one is called Janet, one is living the life as Janet, but Janet remembers being another being with a different name, who looks different. But it isn't that she remembers being that being in the past and then incarnating in a linear sense into Janet. she remembers that she's simultaneously this other being as well as being Janet. Now, this is the case for everybody because we're all multidimensional. So all of us are Andromedan, Arcturian, Pleiadian, Sirian, Lyran beings simultaneously to being human. So one perspective that gives us an accurate metaphor when you look at the technology of that particular planet or planetary system is the one where we go into the sleeping chambers and then incarnate. So it is a metaphor, but it's truthful also depending on the technology that particular advanced civilization has. So this question was about that, and the answer from the 9 is yes, it's an accurate memory. It's important not to focus on that, because if you focus on that, then you can narrow your perspective into that Andromedan stream. So if you think, well, I'm actually an Andromedan being lying in a sleeping chamber, the real me isn't me. The real me is an Andromedan being lying in a sleeping chamber, and I want to get back into that body, sort of like the Matrix film where Neo frees all these individuals that are hooked up to the Matrix and frees them all into their real form. It's kind of like that. Yes, it's truthful for everyone because we are all things, and we are these other beings that are asleep, if you like, and other beings that are awake. It's also true when you zoom in on that particular technology, but if you focus on that, it can narrow down your expansion into one stream, which is a good thing if you are, say, writing about this. Say you're teaching about that one perspective and you want to write a series of books or give a series of teachings on that one perspective, then that's a good thing because you are specializing in that perspective. As long as you move back out into the expansion of all things and don't narrow onto that one perspective, because the way to expansion is to embrace all the perspectives, and it's easy to get hooked up on one when your heart is linked to it, and your heart will be linked to it because it's you. You will feel very, very close to these lifetimes, these incarnations, because as your memories wake up, and your memories will be of a greater magic, a greater unity, a planetary system that lives in harmony. And it's so lovely and you will want it. But the reason you came here to Earth was to create it here. And although you've got these memories, the idea is not to want to go back home immediately, get the next flight, light ship back home. The idea is to complete your mission here on Earth. So, so that was one question with that. Now, the other question was about the Lemurian mermaids. As mermaids in Lemuria, did you swim until you knew to find true love? You would have to journey onto the land in human form. So someone said, is this true? Were we mermaids? And is that why we found our physical legs, so that we would come out of the seas, walk on the land to find true love? It's a story, it's a metaphor, but yes, it's true. And if you look, I think there is a mermaid story. Is it The Little Mermaid, where she has to give up her mermaid tail and find legs to find true love? Absolutely, it's true. But the metaphor and the truth it links to is, when we go back to the Lemurian civilization prior to where we are now, so we've got this known history. Our known history takes us to the point that the historians will take us to within known third dimensional knowledge, third dimensional academic knowledge, and scientists and anthropologists, take us back to this point. And before that point, there was no life on Earth, is what we're told. What the 9 say to me is there is a point before known history where there was life on Earth. It was a very different Earth. It was a higher dimensional Earth. It was before Earth moved down into the dense matter of the third dimension. So we're looking at a fourth, higher echelons of the fourth, lower echelons of the fifth, and a harmonic there. That's where we were as a planet. That civilization was known as Lemuria. Now, in that civilization was the whole planet. It wasn't just Lemuria is here or Lemuria is here. The whole of Earth, or rather most of Earth, was Lemurian. within that, there was a lot of water. There was a lot of water on Earth, way more water on Earth than there is now. And beings lived in the water, and these were humanoid beings. So, you know, when you look at mermaids, absolutely, they weren't exactly how they are depicted, but they are humanoid beings that lived within the water. So the metaphor of these mermaids in Lemuria finding true love, they would have to journey onto the land in human form. The true love that they were looking for, it isn't necessarily, again, the twin flame love, and absolutely that comes into it, and it is the third dimensional manifestation of love, is true love in a relationship. Of course it is, but the higher version of love would be the love of self, as in the love of the source aspect within the light levels. So in order to find that love, one would migrate from the seas onto the land. One would migrate from the land into the seas. One would learn to live in both. But it was the land that created the human civilization. So the mermaids, in order to find true love, they would have to journey onto the land in human form. So this was to do with their expansion in going forward, and coming back down into a third dimensional planet for Earth was kind of like going down the frequencies, going backwards into a descension, but that led to expansion because it leads to individualization. So when Lemuria was on Earth, it was a higher dimensional state, so there was a oneness, but there would have been a lack of knowledge about compartmentalized separation, because one existed within more of a oneness. It wasn't full oneness because it was fourth, fifth dimensional, but it was more oneness than third dimension. To move into full expansion and full integration and full individualization, one comes down the frequencies to fully compartmentalize within separation. When one fully compartmentalizes within separation, then one is able to know oneself within all these structures, and then move back together and move forward. And that's where we are now. We are now moving forward. We are now going back up the frequencies in an ascension. So Lemuria was before the descension. There is also a perspective where one could say we're going back to Lemuria, and you know, we may go back into the sea and be able to breathe underwater. All of that is true. It's another perspective or another stream of that ascension process. So the 9 tell me not to analyze this fully because it is an activation and be given to you directly. But I have analyzed those 2 aspects simply because I had questions come in about those. So, so thank you for listening. That's the end of this video, and I will be back with the remaining analysis in the next video. So I thank you very much for listening, and I will see you again shortly. Bye.
What is the Matrix? Who are the Masters? I, Magenta Pixie, am so very pleased to present my first book, channeled from my guidance system that I refer to as the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of 9. Discover the true story of our origins as an energy system, how we lost the original template for our destiny, and how we are now in the process of remembering those lost codes. Learn how humanity may reclaim the sovereignty which is rightfully ours, bringing us back into wholeness, integration, and full understanding of who we are, what we are, why we are here, and what we are here to do. Spirituality, metaphysics, and science merge as the sacred geometry, known as the language of light, is downloaded and decoded. The realization and activation of these ancient codes for a new dawn of man is an alchemical process available to us all. Now is the time that collectively we move forward into a fully conscious ascension and embrace the new archetype of Master of the Matrix.